Antlers, assumptions, and artillery. What's that about? Irma asks as Bjorn sends a confirmation over his communicator. He had gotten a single message about it and had agreed to things. It's nothing, he says in a slightly hesitated tone. What's wrong? Holly catches it. He waffles for a bit before sighing. There's an update to the defensive brand, which means my current one is going to be wiped and then reapplied with the new enhancements. It's useful. It's very useful. But it always hurts. Everyone says they hurt, but how much? I mean, there's a lot of things that hurt, but you could say that annoying paperwork is painful. But everyone who's had a brand says it's the worst, Lils asked. Well, to put it in perspective, ordering someone to take one is an offense that will result in a long, unhappy, and likely loud conversation with an admiral. Actively forcing one on someone in any situation beyond immediately saving their life will result in an immediate dishonorable discharge and arrest, Bjorn begins. And what kind of situation is that? Holly asks. The brand protects from a lot of things, so if a massive gas attack was welling up and there was no place that I could get you that wasn't compromised by it, then I could force the brand on you. Anything other than immediately saving your life with it will result in heavy and harsh legal action. Wait, that thing protects against poisons too? It's technically an overtooled environmental hazard protection brand. It keeps me at a comfortable temperature, in a comfortable atmosphere, and can even inertially dampen me in case I'm falling. So while it won't do a thing against, say, some antifreeze mixed into a fruit drink or a cyanide capsule rammed down my throat, gas attacks are useless against me. I can walk clear though a toxic gas attack, and the worst it will be is a smokescreen. These brands are rated up to the Skosic environment. I could technically go to that world, find a lava serpent, and ride it. Of course, that level of environment is so extreme that it would burn off all my clothes, but I'm thinking vacation girls, Irma says. It's a hunting world, girls. Are you sure you want that? Bjorn asks, and there's a pause. No, Vera says. Not really. Lils replies. How about swimming instead? Salas asks. Thought so, Bjorn says before setting his communicator to the side, and then he nudges Irma. Now, can we get the film back on? I was told there was a massive punchline somewhere in it, and we haven't seen it yet. A punchline? Wait, there's supposed to be something funny about this, Holly asks, and Bjorn's shrug bounces Irma a little. So I was told. I want to see that, Bjorn says, and Irma gets things playing again. Migala is now moving very carefully through the arcology with her stolen jacket on over top and her old one tied around her waist. A shift of the hat and an adjustment of her hair once again had her profile and appearance almost completely unrecognizable. She whistles to herself with her pincers, clicking something out in an Andinus language that is translated into what seems like a childish song at the bottom of the screen. Really, Mom? Really? Ashina asks. What? That song is going to be in my head forever, Migala teases, and Ashina sighs dramatically. Sleep, sleep, chittering child. It is time to rest a while. Migala sings the opening of the old lullaby in galactic trade with her voice and in the older language with her pincers. Mom, I'm not a baby, Ashina protests, and Migala laughs before pulling her close. More's the pity. You were easier to please back then, Migala says. You could let me back home or stop making me go to that stupid, Ashina says, and Migala opens her eyes again, and the softness is now gone and hard. The hug turns into a hold. No, I will not, and if you try to squirm out again today, I'm going to make it worse. How can it get worse? I'm still spoiling you, she says, and Ashina goes very, very quiet. How? When I was your age, I was already a blooded claw. If you had gone through my life, you would have already gone through missions. All right, not as crazy as the one you're watching now, but the general idea for about 4.5 years now. Mom, that's not even old enough to legally drive in some places, Ashina says, slowly pulling away and looking at her mother in horror. I paid a taxi, Migala says. I paid a taxi and then went around breaking fingers with my pincers, stinging people and blatantly stealing from them when they fell to the ground paralyzed, and smashed up storefronts. All to set an example of what happens when you mess with the stung or decide you're too good to pay protection. Needless to say, the taxi was gone after that, and I got my first run-in with disguise tricks as I mugged someone for her coat to get around police looking for me. They got me anyways, and I had a good 3 days of cooling my pincers in a cell to think about how I could have done that better. Ashina says as she stares at her mother. Migala picks up the remote in one pincer, the bowl of leftover broth from after she ate all the noodles and bits of meat and veggies, and turns on the recording again before draining the broth. The Migala on screen continues the lullaby through its motions, and by the time she's finished, she's nearly down to the appropriate level. She had used a portal gate that was being watched. She had used a small crowd as a visual block to the guards. Then, when she sees what her final target is, an outright stops. There are 5 of them in bright armored jumpsuits in striking colors: red, blue, black, yellow, and pink. All of them wielding weapons and their heads completely covered by a helmet that has some kind of animal theme. She starts glancing around a little as she can feel outright amusement in the axiom just outside the hologram chamber. Someone thinks they're being funny. "Look, it's one of Repulsa's minions!" The red one shouts and she rolls her eyes. Clearly someone was having too much fun. Then they're in her face and she has no time to relax as red has a plasma sword, black an axe with an edge that screams through the air. The axe is also a shot cannon and she's forced to dodge again and even harder. Then she has to move to get away from a blue energy spear extending at her, and as yellow rushes with a pair of energy knives and pink is taking aim with a ranged weapon. Her tail flashes up and hooks into the ceiling before she pulls herself off the ground, and then before they can reorient on her, she jumps hard back down and lands on yellow with her robotic claw around the woman's neck. She engages full power and the armor buckles under her prosthetic. Yellow then vanishes in a recall teleport. "Of course it can't be easy," she says before shifting just enough to dodge the blue lance and grabs it with one's pincer and stinging the blue one in the back of the neck. It wasn't a killing blow, but he fades away as well. The pink one's weapon goes off and she rushes forwards and under the shot. It was explosive and that was a good thing to do. The explosion takes out several civilians who were too stupid to run. That'll ding her score. She still has the blue lance and she hurls it with Axiom enhanced strength. Pink catches it in the chest and is gone. Only black and red are left. They move carefully, clearly not willing to go down like their allies did. Black goes right and red left, the axe and sword at the ready as she slowly starts pulling in Axiom. She's doing it slowly so as not to tip off just what she's about to do. She takes a wide stance with her claws to the side. They're going to make the first move which will give her what she needs, or the expected distraction will come up. "There she is, get her!" one of the enemy guards calls out, and a plasma bolt is shot her way. Red is forced to look away from her to check the new development, and she moves. Red and black move as well, even as she charges red, her claws clacking and clattering, and a screech filling her voice and carrying loudly. It's not at Fossa levels of sonic attack, but it's enough to get red to flinch even as her tail takes a fast but inaccurate swipe at black to get him to swing. She twist shifts and then double kicks red in the side and right into black's swing. Red vanishes outright, and black staggers in shock even as she shifts to the side and lets the oncoming barrage of plasma pelt him. She then starts running and fades out of visibility, prompting the enemy combatants to start looking around. Her response is to outright leave the arcology and face the cold winds in victory. 5 for 5, that's a win, she says to herself with a smile as she reaches into her pocket and pulls out a communicator. What the? The target count has not gone down. There were, however, 6 civilian deaths, bringing the number to 82, 974, 396. She frowns at that. So I have to track the escape teleport? That's a challenge even to skilled adepts. Why? She's cut off by a mechanical roar as the arcology speakers suddenly start blasting heavy metal music. What? Who the hell are the Power Rangers? I don't get it. Why is he laughing so hard? Lil's asks as Bjorn howls with laughter. The moment that he had seen the enemy combatants, he had started to snicker and chuckle in amusement, but the music had pushed him over the edge. Never mind, keep going, Bjorn tells them, and Irma presses play again. Wait, is that? Migala asks, looking out into the now clearing snowstorm to see 5 gigantic mechanical monsters. All of them in the same colors of the people she had just fought, and now the hints of animal designs around their heads were familiar. A massive red theropod, a colossal black pachyderm, a ceratopsid of equal size standing shoulder to shoulder, with a yellow feline as a huge pink pterosauria soared overhead. "All right, you know what? Fuck it, let's go," she says, jumping off the balcony, and uses Axiom to direct her fall to the wall, and she begins running down it to speed her fall before redirecting momentum to turn it into a charge directly at the arcology-size enemies. "Make my monster grow!" A woman's voice calls up from the heavens above, and something crashes through the atmosphere directly at Mangowa, who teleports to dodge. It teleports with her and strikes her in the back without hurting her. She doesn't bother reacting. Things are going crazy and she's just rolling with it. She has a target in the 5 and no longer cares. Her face is impassive even as she is suddenly starting to tower over the arcology-scale monsters, and her first attack slams into the theropod even as the pachyderm begins unloading with the massive energy cannons worked into its tusks. She uses the ceratopsid as a shield and then avoids a swipe from the feline before being forced to abandon it all as the pterosauria unleashes a barrage. As she skids back, all 5 of the gigantic machine animals come together and combine into a giant fighting robot that she is inexplicably at eye level with. A glance back shows that they're now at the scale where the arcology is waist height. They said expect the unexpected, but who could have expected this? She demands, even as the giant fighting robot reaches upwards and a blast of lightning teleports a sword into its hand that crackles with power. Of course, because why not? Her pincer activates its laser cutter settings, and she uses the laser beams to blunt the power of the sword, allowing her prosthetic to deflect it even as her other pincer swipes at the chest of the battle robot, and it staggers back with explosions rocking across its chest. It then holds up the sword and brings it down to unleash a shockwave that she steps to the side to avoid. She hears screams and glances back to see part of the arcology was damaged, just the tip of one of its triangular sides. But that no doubt killed a lot of civilians. Security level, hostile, targets 1, enemy combatants 40 civilians, 82,922, 560. Neutral combatants 10,130 police officers, 907 private security, 467 common criminals. The robot raises its sword again and she launches a small device on a tether from her pincer even as the lasers deactivate. It grips the guard of the sword and she pulls as hard as she can with one pincer even as the other pulls out a pistol and shoots the robot in the chest. It loses the sword and her grab is good. She shifts the grip as she drops the pistol and charges the robot. The sword pierces its chest with trivial ease, and she rips it upwards to split the head in 2. Even as she does this, the holograms all fade and she's alone in a room full of projectors. The door opens and there's outright cheering from the outside. "What the hell was that?" she demands. Mad World protocol. Some adepts turn reality into their plaything, so you have to be able to keep going even when nothing makes sense, Admiral Crosswind says walking in. "That was damn good work, Specialist. Welcome aboard."